twice, was hired by Apex Energy in Montcalm County. He, however, simply stopped attending meetings after many complaints against him listed in the Michigan Bar Association became public knowledge. He kind of disappeared. I'm running out of time, but I've still got some. Surplusage nugatory. Good time to mention it. Those are two words the judge used to describe parts of NextEra's lawsuit. Surplusage is like me just rambling on and on right now for the next 5 minutes and not saying anything. And nugatory means it had nothing to do with the topic at hand. Federal court judge's words, not mine. Here is a letter from Kelly Felco, who lives in Livingston County. She sent this to me several months ago. She wrote this in an email to me. Just wanted to share this with you, as I know you likely know this individual from the wind proposed projects here in Livingston County, which I do. She wrote, and I'm not going to read everything, it'll take too much time. I just wanted you to be aware that Michael Sage of DTE was found to have violated DTE's ethical standards by a corporate investigation into his conduct recently. Back in February of 2023, Mr. Sage contacted my private employer basically to say, she's costing us, do you know how much money she's costing our township and our community? Has she really, he really shouldn't have done that? And that was part of the argument. I chose to file an ethics complaint with DTE, she said, regarding Mr. Sage's conduct, and my complaint was investigated by a corporate investigator at DTE and found to be validated. The matter was then handed over to senior management to DTE to address his conduct accordingly. I just wanted to make the township aware of this now, that the investigation has been concluded, and to exercise caution when dealing with this individual. I don't know if he's still, I don't know what happened to him. I'm not aware. And my voice is going. Here are just some headlines. I could put 20 of them on here or more. Headline that in newspapers across the country. NextEra official gets earful from South Dakota regulators over road damage at Crown Ridge wind site. Florida-based wind energy company pleads guilty to killing 150 eagles. Moss Creek solar application for special exception reversed by Judge Friedman. Why? The key to his decision was Moss Creek Solar's failure to comply with the application requirements, which sounds like that's what's going on here. I don't know. This from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services recommendation. The entire Garden Wind Farm by Heritage Sustainable Energy on the Garden Peninsula and the Upper Peninsula is within 3 miles of Lake Michigan, and there are about 20 of 50 wind turbines in the Apple Blossom Project and the Thumb, Huron County, are proposed within the same proximity of Lake Huron. That's despite recommendations from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to avoid a 3-mile zone around the shoreline of the Great Lakes. This is DTE too. One more drink, and I think I'm done, almost. This would happen to me as a teacher every September. I was a coach and taught phys ed for a while, and my voice would go the first 2 weeks of the school year every year. Do not release the manual. This is from the Huron County attorney at that time to the zoning administrator. Do not release the manual. We have less liability exposure from a FOIA violation than we do for wrongfully releasing valuable commercial documents. Follow through with what appears to be an offer for a representative to meet with the county and concerned citizens. If someone still wants the manual, let them sue pursuant to FOIA, and the court can make the decision. Okay, I had to FOIA this information from Huron County, which they did send. Right? The last thing is you can ask the speaker in Fremont Township if residents, if Liberty what kind of things and issues are affecting them that they're not happy with. I don't know them, so I can't address that. But my point is, too many things like this happen across the country. I spend 8 to 10 hours a day on my computer, and I'm doing wind energy research. And I've been doing it since 2016. So if anybody says he's not an expert, one of the criteria for being an expert is experience. So since 2016, I probably researched a little bit more than probably most of you, if not all. Thank you.
I'm going to be able to read too. Okay, thank you. My name is Marilyn Strickler. I've lived in Speaker Township my entire life, except for a few months when I first got married. We moved back here for the peace and quiet because the recalled board members that did not do any research on the effects of wind turbines. They changed ordinances to suit the turbine company instead of protecting the Speaker citizens. That peace and quiet may be taken away forever from the Speaker Township citizens. Last year, test holes were drilled by the turbine company. After that, we had some residents having problems with their well. Are these directional bore holes fracking? And if they are, does the turbine company have a frack-out plan? And did they implement it when drilling these holes? In the Eagle papers I read dated November 29, 2022, they say the turbine company needs a frack-out plan for Speaker Township for their directional boring. So is the turbine company going to be fracking in Speaker Township? I would also like to know how deep you drilled these test holes, and did you use the bentonite or cement or aquagel to seal them properly? When the ITC lines came down in Fremont Township, a well driller told me that they didn't seal their holes with cement or bentonite either. They just filled them back up with dirt. These water problems sound the same as the ones in Chatham, Kent, Ontario. In Chatham, Kent, they are on the Upper Devonian Kettle Point Formation shale deposit. Our township is on the Coldwater shale deposit. The well driller that came out, that was called about the well, said he had never seen anything like it before. Is this a coincidence, or is this the start of our township water problems? This resident had to replace all of their faucets because they were plugged. Also, they had to put in a whole house water filter that they had never needed before. It plugged in 2 weeks. The next time it lasted 3 months, and this is what it looks like. This black one right here. And these are brand new ones, so you can see the difference. They said their cold water now smells horrible. In Chatham, Kent, they can no longer use their wells. Water has to be trucked in. What will you do when you cannot use your well? I have a few cattle and chickens to feed and water, and I cannot imagine what it would cost to bring in water for them and our household use. And where would you store it? How would you hook it into your system? And what about in the wintertime when it freezes? I know of 3 test holes that were drilled in Speaker Township. One was on the Demery Farm north of M90, another west of Melvin on Dave and Bonnie Sproul's farm. The next one was drilled on Bernie and Susan Davies' land. Susan said her water filter looks just like this black one here, and she doesn't think anything is wrong with her well. If my filters look like this black one, I don't think my well would be fine. I'm sure there were other test holes drilled, but I don't know where. When we told Mr. Pavlov about the well problems, he wrote down where the test hole was drilled, and we asked him at the next meeting what he found out, and he said he didn't know where the test hole was drilled. Smoke and mirrors is all you get from this turbine company. In our master plan, our township is supposed to protect our groundwater. I expect our township to do its job and protect our wells. I don't put a lot of stock into what these so-called wind experts say. I have checked into Dr. Chris Olson. He was co-leader for Intrinsic Renewable Energy Health Team in Canada. When in Canada, any more than 40 decibels of noise causes sleep problems, myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack, hearing issues, and annoyance. In the United States, he thinks it's okay to have higher decibels of noise. Apparently, he doesn't think our health is as important as the Canadians' health. When he was in Kansas trying to push the turbines through, they wanted 10 times the height for safe setbacks. Dr. Chris Olson said he wanted to be clear from the outset that there are potential health issues for those living within the proximity to the wind turbines, if they are not properly sited. He also said that as wind turbines become taller, it has become common for counties or states across the Midwest to use a multiplier on the height of the turbine for setbacks from homes. In his experience, it is typically 3 times the wind turbine height to non-participating homes. Tell me, with all this knowledge, why they had our board change ordinance setbacks to 1,050 feet, which 3 times the height of a 656-foot tall turbine is 1,968 feet. I think if I did a deep dive into these other so-called experts, we would find the same kinds of conflicting opinions, but I'm not going to waste my time. I think the turbine company should do a better job of vetting these experts. I guess it was that $1 million offer that got our township board excited, which was never written down. All they had to do was dangle that carrot. I guess our safety is of no concern to them when they can collect all of our taxpayer subsidies, then sell off these leases to companies with offices in China and Korea. They take the money and run. We need to deny this SLU application and protect our groundwater and all the residents from the noise that cause health issues, because they can never get the wind turbines quiet enough for our ordinances. It's not possible. On our property, we grow hay. In Rexville, New York, a wind turbine started on fire, and the toxic burnt fiberglass was spread across the people's property for a mile in diameter. So how are you going to protect my land? You cannot sell hay to feed animals that has toxic particles in it. We don't want to live in a wasteland. There are too many dangers living around wind turbines. They need to be miles away from people and animals to be safe. And I have had people come up to me and ask us to protect them because they will inherit their parents' property and they have signed leases with the turbine company. When leaseholders say not to worry about them, some of their kids are worried about the mess that will be left to them to clean up. We need to protect the entire community and save some of these leaseholders from themselves. I ask that the board please deny this special land use permit application and protect our wells and the residents from the noise that causes health problems. Thank you.
Good evening, David Hicks from this little village in Melvin. I've got a little bit more homework for you. You good? That'll work. Thank you. I'm going to break this up into 3 sections. Keep it tight. Do a little opening statement, so you know what will be inside. I'm going to highlight a few on the second reading through, and then just close your statement. Read along with me after I start, that will be good. Okay. What I will present tonight is, first of all, we'll talk about the lack of a redacted safety manual, unredacted safety manual, and edit the redacted to prepare as for publication, edit, reuse, to draw up, or frame. I'll read 2.5 pages of opening statements and quickly review specific items for your second overview. We, the people, believe, as you, the Planning Commission, have been provided with volumes of facts and concerns, and rely on your informed final decision. We'll be waiting for your answer. Now let's get to the issues. Safety manual. We have been very skeptical of this wind company because of the refusal to provide the township an unredacted safety manual for the specific wind turbine model intended for installation. In the safety manual provided by the wind company, the introduction clearly states that what serves Vestas best is always to put safety first. Safety is repeated throughout the introduction. Based on comparison to the other Vestas safety manuals available online, it appears the deficient safety manual provided by the wind company is for the Vestas V90. We believe the Vestas V90 is about 1/3 the size of the models that are intended for installation in our township. Therefore, I do not believe that Liberty has even provided the proper safety manual for the industrial wind turbines in question. What I found in this manual is that it requires wind company staff to establish a temporary clearance area in the event of a turbine incident, which is described as fire, runaway turbine, or debris separation. In these events, staff is required to rope off or otherwise temporarily clear an area with a minimum radius of 500 meters, or in English, 1,640 feet, measured from the base of the turbine. However, as you all know, the SLUP application seeks to put these turbines far closer to people's homes, which simply cannot be moved in the event of a turbine incident. If you use a 1,640 feet required temporary clearance area for the V90 and multiply it by the 2.5 or 3 for the substantially larger V162 model, that would provide our township with safe setbacks so the non-participating homeowner would never have to live in a temporary clearance area. That, I believe, would be the least we could do to protect our non-participating homeowners. The manual also provides instructions for snow and ice hazards, where it cautions the staff that after a period of cold weather, there is a risk of falling ice and snow from the blades into the south. That's the hub. They further advise staff that if they must approach a turbine, to take precautions and approach upwind with the wind from behind. No advice was provided for those who live with the wind blowing and ice and snow towards their home. That's precisely why no turbines should be built within that temporary clearance area. The thunder and lightning storm precautions in the deficient safety manual provided by Liberty are definitely vague. They require staff to evacuate the site or immediately proceed to the nearest safe location. And then they are required to monitor for thunderstorms within a 12-mile radius from the turbine, and further instruct the site manager and or authorized supervisor to alert all people on site and ensure evacuation of the turbines, and it also instructs a clearance for the site. Liberty employees have to evacuate the turbine, but they also instruct employees to evacuate the site. What defines the site? All of Speaker Township? The provided safety manual does not provide a clear definition of the word site. They refer to the site office or the accident site, but it could not find a clear definition of what defines a site for thunderstorms and lightning. Is the wind company required to notify the participating or non-participating neighbors of the possible dangers from lightning and thunderstorms? What if there are children playing in a nearby yard? Are they notified of the possible danger? That they're not monitoring a thunderstorm 12 miles away and are oblivious to the potential danger. What then? And is the area required to be monitored for a storm larger when using the much larger turbines that Liberty is seeking now? That is precisely why we need an unredacted safety manual for the precise make and model of the turbine at issue in Speaker Township. Here's one that's a little more near and dear to my heart. Chemical hazardous spills, fire department. What equipment will the fire department need to have? We have heard that the townships in northern Michigan have been having financial difficulties because of the state of Michigan is now mandating that these townships have specific equipment for their fire departments, and the wind companies aren't providing equipment of the funds to purchase it. Unfunded mandates. If the township doesn't have the money to purchase equipment, so all the glorious money the wind company is promising, why don't these townships have the money necessary for the state mandated equipment? I think I can tell you why. Wind companies have appealed for tax treatment for these turbines and are demanding a refund of the taxes received by the township. Here's one I want to step aside a little bit. I was township supervisor in 92 to 96 in Burnside in Perry County. I was also the assessor for the first year. I sat through hundreds of hours of tax tribunal where DTE would come for depreciation or any other large corporation. 251 appeals in 92 alone. Hundreds of hours. Getting back to the fire department a little bit, civil engineer in the Air Force who worked with the fire department online. I personally had pulled out what we used to refer to as crispy critters from a aircraft crash. I don't want anybody to have to deal with that, but we do not have equipment provided by the fire department. I do not want to see their lives in danger. Speaker Township should not give Liberty the chance to do the same here at these tribunals. Personal property appreciation. How can the Planning Commission ever be assured that are protecting the health, safety, and welfare of all residents in the township if this company refuses to provide the most basic of safety information? You get a manual when you purchase a toaster, or a kitchen business, or a car. Certainly something so invasive and as potentially dangerous as a 656-foot tall industrial wind turbine requires a thorough review of the safety manual. If Liberty refuses to produce one, it certainly makes me wonder what they're trying to hide. Okay, I did cover a few things that I wanted to go back, specifically tax tribunal, fire department, and unredacted, just for a definition here. Okay, in closing, I'm sure there will be a corporation involved with these facts. Only fair, just a business doing what they're paid to do, putting industrial equipment on food production land. With that, I respectfully yield the floor to the next speaker. Thank you for your attention in making the right decision for our safety concerns and master plan. Thank you.
Bill, looks like the Wi-Fi again. Must be. Can you turn it back on? There it is.
I have come before this commission many times, and almost every time I've provided each member with documents, articles, and peer-reviewed reports on the dangers of living in an industrial wind turbine installation. Never once has any of the documents or information been debunked. The 3 residents that were appointed to the Citizens Advisory Committee for Wind and stuck with it to the end all worked very hard researching how to bring wind energy safely to our township. It was not an easy task because overwhelming research advises against allowing industrial wind turbines of any size near residential areas. We found that industrial wind turbines affect the elderly, the handicapped, and disabled, and children with disabilities exponentially more than the general public. We consulted with all kinds of state agencies asking for direction and information. We came up with some recommended setbacks. We recommended no shadow flicker and lower sound levels. We found that the Riverbend Wind Project's own newsletter from February 2023 advised that the maximum allowable wind turbine noise should be measured at the non-participating property line and at 45 dBA. Not to individual buildings and residences, but the wind company doesn't seem to want to comply with their own publication. We found over and over that the only way to reduce the sound of an industrial wind turbine is increasing the setback distance. Our research found that wind turbines should be sited at the very least 2.8 times the height of the turbine from non-participating property lines, which you will find on page 7 of the recommendations for the wind ordinance for Speaker Township and on the second page of the wind company's February 2023 newsletter, which is included in your binder for your review. We found that defining setbacks to current structures rather than property lines also limits a non-participating property owner from future building on their property. Setbacks should only pertain to structures when they are located on participating property. To say this least, it isn't fair to our non-participating residents to limit future development of their property. The unsafe setbacks also have the potential to negatively impact future sales of properties in the surrounding area, limiting an owner's right to develop their own property. This could stop them from building their dream retirement home or selling off a few acres for family to build on. Mr. Decker's concern for his home and his second lot is real in this special land use application, as it may in the future prevent him from building on his second lot or prevent him from selling it due to the unsafe setbacks proposed by the wind company. The unsafe setbacks could also prevent him from realizing the full financial benefit from his property if he needs to sell his home or second parcel. We all heard what David Stevens had to say about property values in his township compared to the next township. Using property lines instead of structures would also be more in line with the vision of Speaker Township that our 2016 master plan envisioned for our community. Sadly, our recommendations were not considered by previous planning commission. Noise has been recognized by our own government as a pollutant when it passed the Noise Control Act of 1972 as part of the Clean Air Act. The Engineering Toolbox website noted that sleep disturbance happens above 30 decibels. Our wind ordinance does not address nighttime noise levels. Our non-participating township residents and those who live surrounding our township will needlessly suffer due to the noise levels proposed by the wind company. As I mentioned earlier, in the wind company's own newsletter stated that sound levels should be measured at the property lines. In your folder, I have included 2 sound reports. I will first read some of the conclusion of Robert Rand's report, which I will try to keep brief. The report states that the proposed facility is certain to exceed the Speaker Township noise limits if it is built and operated. The noise levels did not account for noise increases occurring at night in Michigan due to wind shear exceeding turbine specification, which are documented in this report. When adjusted for documented Michigan wind shear related noise increases, wind turbine noise levels exceed township noise levels at over 24 homes in all layouts. The proposed facility fails to meet the special land use standard in the Speaker Township ordinance of 17.02.00A. Predicted noise levels are not in harmony. They are incompatible based on the ANSI standards in existing quiet rural residential land use at hundreds of homes in Speaker Township. The proposed facility fails to meet special land use standard 17.02.00C. Nuisance impacts from intrusive low-frequency noise appear certain to occur at hundreds of homes. The Hankard report used only the township's permissive noise limits as criteria. It made no noise nuisance impact or noise control assessment, instead reporting only estimated A-weighted wind turbine noise levels. Even those on review are associated with noise nuisance at hundreds of homes in Speaker Township. The Speaker Township noise regulation is unprotective and should be revised to protect public safety, health, and welfare, including sleep and amenity. The only noise control for wind turbines are sufficient distance and smaller, quieter units. The only mitigation is shutting them down, as there is no other operational recourse. Members of the noise control profession are charged with professional ethics, with holding paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public, consideration of, and a written commitment to the public safety, health, and welfare was not found in the Hankard report. The report ignored the special land use standards in failing to inform the township of the potential for disharmony and nuisance. The report exhibits disrespect to the Speaker Township Planning Commission and residents, who include children and elderly whose health and welfare would be adversely impacted by the facility's excessive intrusive noise. My second sound study was prepared by Richard James. His conclusion consists of 13 pages of a 70-page report, but I will just hit on a few of the highlights. The proposed project, as designed, does not meet the requirements of the Fremont and Speaker Township ordinances. The noise analysis conducted by Hankard used a computer model which predicts long-term average sound levels at receiving home and properties. This model is not capable of predicting a short-term, not-to-exceed sound level at receptors of the types used in Fremont speaker regulations. Long-term average, as defined in the ISO standard, means the average sound level that would occur over periods of days to weeks or months with varying weather conditions at receiving homes, not the 10-minute LEQ the report claims. The model used in the Hankard report is not capable of predicting a not-to-exceed sound level at receptors. That makes it useless in claiming compliance with the speaker L10 limits. The sound limits set in the Speaker Township regulations are not protective of people in our community. Mr. James strongly suggested that our township consider revising our ordinances to be protective of the public health, safety, and welfare. These levels exceed National Standards Institute, the ANSI, working with the Acoustical Society of America, the ASA, the World Health Organization, the WHO, and the International Standards Organization, ISO. These standards apply not only to wind turbines, but also to other industrial and transportation sources of community noise. Nothing in our ordinance permits the use of a computer model that predicts long-term average sound levels with varying weather conditions to make claims that the project, once operating, will meet the not-to-exceed measurement limits under varying operation conditions. There is no study that shows that locating 6-megawatt wind turbines near homes, especially when as close as 1,000 feet, is safe. Further, he believed that this proposal, in effect, put the people living near the turbines to be test subjects for long-term epidemiology study. The report's recommendation is that the project should be denied based upon the failure to meet Speaker Township's noise limits. These would have been revealed if the reports used proper methods and safety tolerances and disclosed the limitations of the methods and models used. The report further states that Mr. Hankard should be aware that wind turbine noise varies as much as 15 to 20 decibels around the predicted levels, which could last from minutes to hours. Yet he bases his conclusion on the model's prediction without any consideration of this fluctuation. The report states that Mr. Hankard is well aware of the Shirley Wind project, as he was the acoustics expert that Duke Energy used for Shirley Wind. He personally monitored the study on site as it was being done by the selected experts. So he is very aware that the Brown County Board of Health concluded that the Shirley Wind project was a human health hazard for people living within 2.5 miles of the nearest wind turbine. This report cites many, many, many more instances of why this project must be denied. Included in your binder is a printout of the efficiency of the 3 wind turbine projects in Huron County from the U.S. Wind Turbine Database. Also included is the Deerfield 2 project. The wind company has refused to provide our township with a safety manual for the specific make and models to be cited in Speaker Township. In refusing that, they have never submitted a complete application. Several months ago, they stated that they wouldn't be providing any more documents. Then, the wind company hands you stacks of documents on the first day of the public hearing. I don't believe that you should have to consider these documents due to the previous statements made by the wind company's representative. You should not be forced to try to digest large amounts of very complex technical data in a short time period. Therefore, I encourage the Planning Commission to either ignore those documents as being untimely filed or table your decision until you have had time to consult with the necessary experts on this data. During the public hearings, you have heard a multitude of reasons to deny this application. Based on the master plan, this project is not in harmony with Speaker Township's vision for its future. It does not preserve the rural quality of our township found so important when they prepared the master plan. The project is a danger to the health, safety, and welfare of our township residents. The noise and infrasound issues described in sound studies provided by Richard James and Robert Rand support the idea that this project will cause harm to Speaker Township residents through excessive noise. The future development of non-participating property that has been adversely affected by the unsafe setbacks, also referred to as trespass zoning. The values of our property are likely to be adversely affected. The wind company produced a study to say otherwise, but even that admits that turbines impact property values. Moreover, your own common sense makes it clear that given a choice between a property abutting a turbine and one without, people will choose the property without the 656-foot tall turbine, a mere 1,000 feet away. Our water concerns, the possible fracking, as referred to in the wind company's 2022 response from Eagle. The failure of the wind company to disclose a safety manual. The wind company's failure to comply with the noise limits in their own February 2023 newsletter. Speaker's own zoning ordinance 17.00. The possible disruption and damage to homes and farmland during construction. If the wind company floods a non-participating home or cropland, causing our residents to have to file a lawsuit to try to recover their damages. The complaint resolution plan is all in the wind company's favor. They control the complaints and the mitigation. Our township should be in charge of the complaint resolution, and the wind company should be paying for this with an escrow account. The future costs to the township of potential tax clawback lawsuits. I was at a meeting a few months back at the county commissioners, and it was mentioned there that there is no way to stop these companies from going to the tax tribunal and trying to recover their taxes. The pro-wind people claim that this will be almost dollars falling from the sky as to all the money our township will receive. But when you look at the issues of our neighboring townships to the north and our counties had to endure due to the tax clawback fiasco, it is not worth the risk. I have not seen a good reason to approve this special land use. The four of you on the right inherited this problem, brought on by the former board and the former PC. That's not fair. You have a huge decision and responsibility to make, which will affect our water quality, our home, our land values, our peace and quiet, safety and welfare, and quite frankly, our rural way of life, and it all rests on your shoulders. If we lose our water, if people move away, if we lose students and our school has to close, our teachers and support staff will lose their jobs. If we lose our property values, our tax base suffers. If people suffer from infrasound, excessive noise, and health issues, it's all on you guys. The project will never be good for the health, safety, and welfare of our township, and it must be denied. And I would like to remind you of that map over there. That's almost 80% of Speaker Township residents that did not sign for this project. Thank you.